The following Radio Gunk broadcast deals with subjects that some viewers might find disturbing. It is intended for mature audiences only. And now, enjoy the show.
I love how deliciously creepy our opening is.
Yum, yum.
So, greetings, everyone. Welcome to part 2 of, well, now that we renamed the show. Part 3, technically, but part 2 of Things That Go Gunk in the Night. The first one was very much Howard related with the serial killer that called into him. The second one, if you guys have not watched it, was the Bjork stalker. And now number 3, which is every picture basically tells a fucking story. And so what Xavier and I did is we chose 3 pictures each that told a story. And we made little videos to kind of represent what the picture is telling a story of. And then we'll give you a little bit of detail about it. And I think the best part about this show is the fact that I listen to tons of this kind of shit kind of podcasts and such. And the difference is that we have the video element to it, which I think makes it all the better, because you know, how many times do you listen to these murder mysteries and all sorts of shit, and then you think to yourself, and you know, it's probably like midnight at this point, it's like, oh, I totally want to look into that tomorrow and see who these people were and what they did. Oh my God, love you, Ida. And what they do and what they did. And then you kind of forget about it because you fall asleep. So what we're doing is we're giving you kind of like the condensed version of some really creepy shit that we kind of both think. And I haven't seen his and he hasn't seen mine. So it'll be really, really fun to kind of captivate you guys with what we have to offer tonight.
I think each one of these stories deserves a deep dive on their own. So there's plenty of resources on the internet with each one of these subjects. So, and by all means, do a little deep dive after this. I think you'll find yourself going down the rabbit hole like we did.
Fuck. And I have to tell you something, babe, that doing these shows and doing this one in particular, I went into such a rabbit hole, especially with my first one. Well, actually all 3 of them. And it starts to make you feel kind of queasy inside. Like it starts to make you feel kind of ill to go through what these people do.
It really, to state the obvious, how arbitrary death is. Like each one of these victims didn't wake up that morning and said, hey, I'm going to become a legendary death on the internet for all eternity. And yet here they are. It's just funny how shit works out for people. It's just, you never know.
I know. And I think the ones that we chose, and I don't know your other 2, like I only know the first one because you sent it to me. But I think that they are something that will captivate our people. And yeah, you know what? We are kind of expanding out a little bit. Thank you, Gungadin, for actually realizing that. We are kind of expanding out a little bit because, you know, Howard. All right, so yes, Judy Ayers, absolutely, Ida is the worst fucking person in the world, and I can't wait to get to that.
I don't know. There's that little.
She's a bit of a see you next Tuesday.
That championship belt is held by many people. There's some, dude, your little ghost just flew in front of you again.
I know. See, so there's nothing flying in front of me, but yet there's like spots that are traveling across my field of vision. What the fuck is going on there? It's kind of creepy. Not gonna lie.
It is.
All right, so where do we want to start tonight's show, babe?
You start with your You're go to the broad that killed the dude in the shower.
No. I'm saving her for last. Stop
Oh,
that.
you want to? Okay.
Oh my God, totally. Um,
Sure.
I thought we were starting with the gunshot, but I can certainly start with the.
You start with, and just tell me, and we'll go from
Well,
there.
my shirt is way too loose. Okay, so this was. So here's the weird thing about my shirt, and you probably look at it and it looks like mint green, but in my it is navy blue. Is that weird, babe? Why is that happening? That it's mint green.
Don't know.
It's yeah, so this is an army shirt that somebody gave me like 1,000 years ago, and it's just like super fucking comfortable. Sorry. Yeah, see, right? There's something flying across my screen. Exactly, Mackie. And I don't know what it is. There's nothing in here at all. There's no bugs, there's no anything. Just take it off and we'll discuss.
The ghost is warning you of your gains, and so you don't blow out your vocals.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yes.
You're sounding very like sexy and deep right now.
Well, yeah, I think as I keep ample distance from my mic so I don't blow it out. At the same time, so people don't accuse me of being all mumbly.
Yeah, well, last time you were a little bit mumbles.
Yeah. Well, I was
Vacuum.
I was literally on a podcast with 4 jet engines, so I can
That's
understand.
not happening again, I promise you.
Yes, that's all good.
All right, so
Okay,
I think I'm going to start with something that's kind of famous, and most of you will probably recognize the photo, but you may not know the story behind
Girl?
it. Huh?
Okay, seriously, I am speaking in my natural tone. If you want me to do Mr. Whiskers,
No,
I will
no, no,
do
no,
that
no,
for
no,
the
no,
rest
no,
of the show.
no, no, no,
The
no, no,
next time someone does that,
no,
okay?
no, 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 no,
No.
no, no,
I'm just
no,
saying.
no, no. Cooks, is his sound okay? I mean, I have him set perfectly.
I sound good in my own ear, in my can. So
Well, you sound good to me, but I talk to you all the fucking time, so.
it's time to move up from the ear candy earbuds, as I'm saying.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you so much. All right, are we ready to start? So I'm going to start with the last moments of Regina K. Walters. And you may or may not know who she is, but Regina K. Walters is the, she's teasing, you sound fine. Regina is probably one of the most famous photos of somebody who has been killed. And I don't even really know how to explain this. So I'm going to start the video and we'll see where we go from that, okay? So here we go.
I'm scared.
Yeah, you should be. Be very afraid. All right, volume would help. Wait, hold on. You know, every fucking time is the first time. Give me a second here. I don't know why I don't have volume on here. Oh, maybe because there's no sound.
Yes. Most of these are essentially a slideshow where we will kind of dictate the story to the audience.
Okay, so check this guy out. This guy's name, and this is just such a classic fucking picture. This guy's name is Robert Ben Rhodes, and he's known as the truck stop killer. So, according to the police, they believe that he killed more than 50 women. He used to drive a commercial truck and used to go across America in the 70s and 80s. And the very last murder that he did is probably what he's most famous for. So Robert Rhodes was apparently abused as a child, like many of them are. His ex-wife would tell you that he was really kinky. And he loved when people were in pain. He was very into sadomasochistic endeavors, as you'll see by. Oh, did I fuck this up? Why am I fucking shit up?
No, you're not. Okay, well, to continue, Robert's relationship didn't last very long. He had been married 3 times. His wife described him as being verbally, physically, sexually, and emotionally abusive. And she would state that he would get sexually aroused when she suffered from the pain of her lupus. So the guy was a real scumbag.
Yeah, so here's a picture of him early in the day, and he used to like dressing up in bondage, and he used to like
Depeche
inflicting
Mode.
pain. Exactly. He really, really fucking loved Depeche Mode, and would sing "Everything Counts" while dressed as this.
Now, keep in mind that this is back in the old Kodak days. So when you took a picture like this, you had to go down to Photomat to have it developed. So you can imagine
Can
the
you
poor
imagine
bastard
what the fucking guy at the
at that
photo mat thought?
little booth in the middle of the parking lot. Like, yeah, I'm just turning in my film, and then it
My
comes
dad
back
said,
with,
"Is that JD?"
uh,
Okay, so whilst driving across town, across the country, he happened to pull up on one. Now, why is this happening to me, sweetheart? Am I doing something fucked up here?
no, we just keep playing, playing.
Regina. So this is Regina K. Walters, and this is a picture of her as she looked in her high school yearbook. She was 14 years old at the time,
That's a rough
and
14.
it's a very fucking rough 14. And here she is, and she was traveling across country because she ran away from home, and she was traveling with her boyfriend, and that's him right there.
A young Keanu Reeves.
Yes, and so they were traveling across country, and they just happened to run into Ben Rhodes, unfortunately. And Ben Rhodes took her boyfriend, whose name was Ricky Lee Jones. They were coming from Pasadena, I think is what it was. And so they were hitchhiking across the country, and he picked them up, and he immediately killed Ricky and disposed of the body. Then he held on to Regina for a really long time. And what he did is he cut off all her hair, which is what you're looking at right this moment. So he cut off her
No,
hair and
yeah,
decided that she was going to be his for a little while.
I believe didn't he
There's the
keep
clothing
her?
that she had on. That, by the way, this is from police photos. This is
Yeah,
like her shirt and her underwear from that particular photo that he took of her. Go ahead,
he
babe. What
would
were you gonna say?
he would essentially play dress up with this young lady. And I believe he kept her in one of those gigantic storage containers, the ones that look like the back of the 18 wheelers. So
Well,
he kept,
so yeah, so what he did is he brought her to this farmhouse that you see right here.
yeah,
And what he would do just to torture her family, this is from her little notepad that she used to carry around in her backpack with her. What he used to do is he used to call her father and her mother, and basically just say to them that, I have your daughter. He'd call them from payphones, and he would taunt the dad about Regina's disappearance and the fact
shit.
that he had cut off her hair. So he would call them, but they could never catch up with him
Yeah,
via the
technology back
police.
then.
Yeah, because he was calling from payphones, and he was just driving from place to place. So Robert took Regina to an abandoned farmhouse, cut off her hair, and then he shaved her pubic hair and pierced her genitals with fish hooks.
Ugh.
And that's how he would fucking roll. I'm not understanding why my video isn't going quite as I want it to, because I keep getting like a blank space as I'm going along, and I don't know why. So let me back it
Remember
up
what
a
I said
little
about
bit.
actors earlier on?
What?
Remember what I said about actors earlier on?
What?
Never mind.
Okay, so he cut Regina's hair off, and then what he did on her final day is he dressed her in a long black dress and a pair of black heels. Okay, so what year are we talking about here? It was 1990, because her body was found in September of 1990. This is the very last photo taken of Regina, and this was probably moments before he killed her. And hold on, so let's go to the next portion of the video. And I don't know why it's not coming up, so I apologize in advance. So they actually caught him in September also of 1990, and this was his kill kit. which had lots of fish hooks in it and masks and things to fucking put them in their place with, and things that he would attach into his car so that he could shock them and stuff like that. And the reason that he was caught was his hazard lights were flashing. A state trooper drove by, decided to check and see if the driver needed help. And so when he approached the vehicle, the cop heard screaming and discovered a naked woman in the bed of the truck. So they arrested him with aggravated assault, and then they started to find all this shit. So in this murder kit were cords, chains, whips, leashes, fish hooks, etc. Then they searched his house and they found nude photos of Regina and another girl that he had murdered named Patricia. And so when they finally found the farmhouse where he killed Regina, they saw that she was in the same clothing that he had strangled her in. And yeah, continuing with the every picture tells a story scenario of this horrible fucked up thing. This is the photo of Regina that he took at that moment. I'm going to back it up just a little bit so that you can see this. So this is the last photo of Regina after he cut her hair off, pierced her body with fucking hooks, dressed her up in adult clothing, and then strangled her.
She was just a kid.
She was 14 years old. 14 years old when he did this to her. So yeah, this is actually, and the reason I started with this is because this was kind of the impetus for doing this show, because this happens to be one of the most famous photos of a serial killer taking a photo of his victim right before they die. And so once we started kind of digging into this, we found so much shit that that reads into this whole theme that we're doing tonight. Every picture tells a story. Just so you know a little bit about the rest of what happened to Robert. Robert's believed to have tortured, raped, and murdered over 50 women between 1975 and 1990 during truck stops. But because most of his victims were prostitutes or sex workers and hitchhikers, they couldn't really confirm how many people exactly he killed. The FBI theorizes that Robert killed at least 3 women per month. So when Robert's trial began in 1994, he was convicted of first-degree murder of Regina, which is this girl that you're looking at, and he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, obviously. So while in prison, he also pleaded guilty to the murders of a girl named Patricia and her boyfriend named Douglas, and he narrowly avoided the death penalty and accepted a second life sentence. So currently, he's 74 years old, and he's serving 2 life sentences in a correctional facility in Chester, Illinois. But yeah, this picture is like super fucking creepy to me because it really just kind of explains to you like what fucking madness does. And can you imagine the fear in this fucking girl? Seriously, can you imagine like what that must have been like for her to
look at her face? You can tell she's been crying. Her nose is red and her face is all flushed. I can tell that's definitely how someone looks like after they've been bawling their eyes out. And yes, for the record, pretty much everything you're going to see here is a real picture.
So that's what we're doing tonight.
Someone asked, "Is this picture for real?" But everything is pretty much for real.
Yeah. So you should definitely Google Regina K. Walters. I tried to give you guys pretty much who she is and what she was about. But yeah, this is how he fucking rolled. He just it's just horrible. I'm just going back a little bit. Same day.
Horrible picture.
Same day.
You can't even just begin to process what the horror that this young lady had to endure, knowing that her faith was pretty fucked. And considering at that age, that's an age where you don't think anything bad's ever going to happen to you.
No, you're Superman.
Yeah, you're Superman, and then here you go.
So there you go. there's my first story, and that's Regina K. Walters, who is killed by the truck stop killer, Robert Ben Rhodes. So, yeah. All right. I'm done with mine.
Let's go. So, anyway, if you have some herbal tea right now, it might be the time.
All right, babe, it's your turn.
Okay. Do I have access to playing one? Because
I'm going to add it to the stream right this second.
Perfect. Okay, so here we go. So this is the story of Jolene Callan, 18-year-old, standing at an incredible 4'10". She was a little thing, very popular girl in high school. She is from the, I believe, the Georgia area. She was very popular. In this picture, which circulated around the internet, is of her at a national park in Georgia, taking a nice little scenic hike. Little did she know that those were the last seconds of her life. She, when she was 18 years old, she started dating a 20-year-old named Lauren Daniel Bunner, who, according to her friends, was super possessive guy. So we can hit play for a second. So these are the last seconds of her life that she has no idea about the. So here she is. She had a knack for dyeing her hair pink. She was a very kind of a, pretty cool kid. Yeah, she seemed like a cool kid, very, cute girl for her age and everything, and popular with all her friends. Here is her then boyfriend, Lauren Daniel Bonner, and he
Boner.
The dude was extremely possessive of her.
How old was he?
20 years old.
Okay.
So she was 18. She was 18. He's 20. He's not a very big guy himself either, obviously. They met, dated for a while, but then things start going a little south in that he was super possessive and jealous. He did not like her hanging out with anybody other than him or his friends. So that's kind of like a little warning sign. They dated for a while, and eventually she decided to break it up with him because.
What year was this, babe?
I believe this was in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Anyway, she attempted to break up with him several times unsuccessfully because the guy would always default to, I'm going to kill myself if you leave me, and that sort of low self-esteem type of crap. Eventually, as she approached the end of her high school career and started making plans to go to college, she decided to end it with him because, the guy was kind of a weirdo, and, she was going to leave for college anyway, and he's pretty much a dead end.
He looks Amish. That beard is horrible.
Yeah. So they broke up. She started seeing someone else. He found out that she's getting ready to go to college. So he approaches her and says, "Hey, let's go on a hike and let's be friends. Let's move on our friend. Let's work on our friendship moving forward." So she sent out a message on Instagram. Well, no, he did on Instagram. He texted her friend saying, "Just so you know, we are going up to hike. And if something happens to me, you know what happens." But she said it tongue in cheek, not really anticipating what was about to happen. So this is where they went to hike. If anybody was interested, Peony Trail, which is very beautiful, very scenic, has some nice, beautiful views. So they go on a hike, and he.
Wait, so why did she, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but why did she decide to do this with him, even though they had broken up?
Because she was kind of a softie. And he's like, let's be friends. Let's go work on our friendship. This will be the kind of, and she felt this would have been a nice conclusion to her friendship / relationship with this creep. So they go on a hike. And just as the beginning of this video, I'll go back to this. It's her dog, and the guy. She poses for she's obviously clearly taking pictures, and as she's taking this picture, he pulls out a .22 revolver and shoots her in the back of the head, like seconds after
as she's taking this picture.
As she's taking this picture. So he's posting. Keep in mind, he's posting on Instagram that he's calling her girlfriend again. That we're out and doing a great hike. Blah blah blah. So he's posting this, and he posts this picture and shoots her in the back of the head. She falls, collapses to the ground, turns her over, and shoots her between the eyes, and then pushes her off a 40-foot cliff. So here, let's play this again. We'll go through this.
I'm just curious if you can actually upload my videos, because it seems like I'm being a little stuttery with mine.
Sure, that won't be a problem. I'll be glad to do that. Anyway, so she falls dead, obviously. Well, we don't know. We will never know if she died by that first shot.
Geez, he turned her around and shot her in the fucking...
He turned her over, shot her between the eyes, then tossed her over a 40-foot cliff. So,
nice guy.
So now he walks back to his car, and he calls the police and tells them that he just murdered his girlfriend. And so the police show up, they arrest him, and they find her body. Everybody is shocked by what just happened. And he tells the police while he's being interviewed that that's the revolver he used. He tells the police that basically they had a murder-suicide pact, but he chickened out on his end, which nobody bought. Because
he's a tiny guy too.
Yeah, he's a little guy. So he is arrested. Clearly, everybody's outraged. His lawyer files a petition with the court, and says that he has Asperger's, therefore he should be tried as a minor, which the court was okay with.
He's 20 years old.
The court actually granted to him which I think the maximum would have been 3 years in prison, but there was such outrage that the DA actually went back and he annulled that agreement. And so, we'll play a bit more here. So the guy was found guilty and was basically sentenced to life in prison. And that is kind of like the sad ending to this whole thing. Basically a wasted life. And a little footnote, one of the main reasons that they rescinded their original tried as a minor is apparently he was bragging in jail that if he couldn't have her, nobody could. So, yes, he completely confessed. In fact, he walked back to his car and called the police immediately on himself.
So yeah, that's pretty fucking disturbing. Is there anything more to your video here? Or
no, that's pretty much it. The trial was in November 2015, and the guy is hopefully going to rot in jail for, I think he's going to be eligible for parole in like 50 years or something like that. So good luck, douchebag.
Yeah. Bye, dick. Yeah, okay. Fabulous. All right. So how are you guys liking this so far? I think a lot of it gets so much worse. Not gonna lie.
You know what? I'm looking at I think he wanted to ruin his life. I don't know. I mean, how do you go and kill someone that you presumably love and then essentially turn yourself in? I mean, I don't know how to make heads or tails of that.
You know what? I think that, honestly, I feel like he probably would have killed himself, but he was probably too fucking chicken to do so, because so many times with these kind of crazy dudes, if I can't have you, no one can kind of people, it's like he probably wanted to do a murder-suicide pact.
Okay, so here is the actual ending of this. On July 13th, 2017, Berner pleaded guilty to the Jolene Collin murder, though his attorney pleaded with the courts for leniency, claiming that there was evidence that he lived with mental illness, and apparently the guy was in special ed his entire school career. The judge, however, was not swayed. Berner received 52 years in prison, and he will be eligible for parole in 15 years.
15, 1-5?
1-5.
So he was 20 years old when this happened?
Yes. So he will be 35 when he's eligible for parole. Well, at a couple of years, 37 years old, he'll be when he's eligible to get out of.
Okay, let me just throw something out here to some guy who's saying the show has gotten so depressing lately. It's not, actually. This is a completely separate show that we're doing leading up to Halloween. We just wanted to do things that were a little bit on the creepy, macabre side of life, having nothing to do with what we do as a Radio Gunk thing. So we like it. That's all that matters, really.
Voices on the internet.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I'd like to. So, babe, as we're talking, maybe what you can do is add in the Annalise Michelle.
Okay, 1 second.
And then if you are able to do that, then I'll take out mine and then we'll use yours.
It's loading as we speak.
Okay, I see it. All right.
In a few seconds.
So I'm going to start my next preamble to my next video. Just so you guys who are joining us right now, Xavier and I decided to do 3 interesting pictures that tell an entire story of different really creepy things that go on in our crazy fucked up world. And so my guy, thank you, Pibble Girl. Thank you so much.
To answer that question, it's fun. Keep going. Okay, the last guy was convicted to how many years? Because he didn't even sound plausible. He received a 52-year sentence, eligible for parole in 15 years.
Well, he did confess to it, so there is that.
Her father felt like justice was served. So,
whatever.
I don't know. Maybe he's looking forward for him to come out just like just pop him in the fucking face with a gun. I don't know.
All right, so you want to punch up the next video so that I can start talking about it?
Sure.
All right, awesome.
Once again, I think you have to do it.
Oh, of course I do. Hang on.
Yes, there you go. Boom.
Okay, this is going to have some sound content to it. So let me tell you about Annalise Michelle. And Annalise was born in 1952 in Germany to a very, very strict Catholic family. So she had a very strict upbringing. Her mother had already lost a child, and I think the little girl was like 8 years old when she died. We don't know why she died, but nonetheless, there she was. So her mom was completely fixated on Annalise. And since they were so religious, their whole thing was that Annalise lead a incredibly pious and faithful to the Christian upbringing type of life. So she would attend mass twice a week. Her parents kept very, very close eye on her, and she was under their eye. So she started to develop like this really weird kind of neuroses because of the punishments that were inflicted on her by her very, very strict Catholic family. And she was like a really kind of normal girl. She here's her voice when she was here. So this is what Annalise looked like. So just kind of take a look at her here and listen to what Annalise sounded like.
Dass die dann so schlimm ist und so grausam und so furchtbar. Nee.
So, all of a sudden, at some point around when she was 16, this is a child in school who was happy, well-liked. She knew like 3 or 4 languages at this point. And at some point when she was 16, she blacked out in class and she went into like this weird trance-like state. She woke up that night and she had a really heavy feeling in her body and she wet the bed. So her parents didn't really do anything about it at the time. She didn't go to school the next day. Everybody thought she was fine. It was no big deal. So then a year goes by, and the exact same thing happens again. And her parents decide to take her to the doctor. Doctor didn't find anything wrong with her, but nonetheless, they hospitalized her in 1970, saying that she had tuberculosis. So while she was in the hospital, she had another episode where she went into a trance, she soiled herself, and, she just wasn't feeling right. So she started to think that she was seeing colors, she was hearing sounds. She thought that she was having some sort of weird euphoria. She would say the rosary. She would start to freak out. The doctors then diagnosed her with epilepsy. So obviously, they're just kind of trying to find something that's basically wrong with her. So so she went back to school, and they had to take her out because she was really depressed. She was withdrawn. She was having these weird seizures. They put her on medication. The medicine wasn't helping her. So even though she wound up graduating from high school and going off to college to become a teacher, in around 1973, she started having hallucinations, and she would always have these hallucinations while she was praying. So they thought that she was damned and that the devil was inside of her. So that's when the exorcisms began. And the story is so fucking upsetting. There was a movie in 2005 that was based on her. It was called The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And what wound up happening is the parents started to record the possession. And so hopefully I'll be able to play a little bit of this for you because it's really fucking creepy. So yeah, this is what she looked like when she was first starting to go into a horrible state. Her parents wound up exorcising her around 60 times. Her eyes started to blacken. She started to get really sick. This is her. Okay, this is the picture I really wanted to stop on because this is basically what Annalise Michel looked like when she was kind of like a couple of weeks before her death. And it's just so fucking creepy. Pill says it sounds like me before my coffee. So there on the internet, there's probably about 3 or 4 hours of this online because her parents started to record what they deemed were her possessions.
What do you think was going on?
You know what? I think she was just had like some mental illness that they couldn't really understand at the time. So because they were so religious, they just assumed that it was possession. And what they wound up doing to her was horrific. They chained her up while the priests performed these exorcisms on her. And her behavior, they just really couldn't understand it.
I know people always kind of like say, "Oh, it was epilepsy." Like we saw a comment in the 30s, but epilepsy doesn't make you talk. You just fall down and convulse. There's no like talking aspect.
Well, she was also starving at this point, and as you can see, the incredible difference between the before and after of who she became at this point. Let me play a little bit more so I can talk to it.
It's pretty creepy.
It's pretty fucking creepy. Yeah, that's who she was. So here's what wound up happening to her. Elise is said to have licked her own urine off of the floor. She used to eat coal. They stripped her naked. She used to eat insects that were like crawling up the wall. She would avoid religious items like crosses and holy water and things like that. And that's when the priest decided that she was showing signs of demonic possession. So when they started to perform the exorcisms on her, like I said, it was like 60 times. They did it in secret. They recorded it, but they wouldn't really tell anybody about it. So Annalise stopped taking her medication on the priest's orders, and they were convinced that it wasn't a medical situation. So over the next 10 months, she underwent 67 one-hour exorcism sessions. And the clergy decided that there were 6 demons inside of her, one of them more evil than the next. And if you listen to like the fullness, and it really was just starting to really fucking disturb me yesterday as I was like reading into this. And yeah. So yeah. So she wound up dying at 23. When she did die, she had black eyes. She had broken teeth. She both of her knees were broken, her kneecaps, due to sustained kneeling while performing the rituals. Yeah, fractured teeth, bruised limbs, everything. I mean, just really just horrible. She was also 68 pounds when she died. Yeah, like that. And so her parents and the priests were convicted of abuse. And yeah. Yeah, so they were convicted of abuse, and they were like, "No, you don't understand. She was completely possessed by the devil." But meanwhile, she died at 68 pounds of malnutrition. It was 1976. They didn't even know any better, and her parents wound up going to jail. So did the priest for a period of time, but I think it was only like 10 or 11 months or something like that. But the parents would swear to this very day that she was possessed, and that she was and that she had the devil inside of her, and that's why they needed to do what they did to her, and she wound up dying from it. So yeah, how fucked up is that?
Fun
Look
times.
at that fucking fun times, huh?
Yeah, that's
fun fucking times.
Not a fun existence.
So yeah, there's that. That's my second story, the story of Annalise Michel.
Cool. Let's go to the Hollywood Reaper next.
Ooh, I'm so excited. Okay, so is that the? Let me add this to the stream.
That is it. Okay, so here we have this picture. Here we have who eventually became the Boy Next Door killer or the Hollywood Reaper.
I don't know from him at all.
His name is Michael Thomas Gargiulo.
Gargiulo?
And Gargiulo. These guys never have a normal last name. But the picture you're looking at now just seems like a regular couple goofing around. This picture was actually found in Michael's hard drive after he was arrested for a series of very gruesome murders. And the police actually put this online. This was actually posted on Reddit for a while, with people most like, oh, whatever, it's just a picture. But the fact that I'm pretty sure they never found out who this girl was.
Wait a second. Go back a little bit, because now I need a better understanding of this. So,
sure.
So
we're starting off with this picture. The picture seems like an innocent series of pictures.
Yeah.
Like a couple goofing around. You know, it's something you see on Instagram 100 times a day.
Yeah.
But in fact, this is Michael, who was dubbed the Hollywood Reaper, and he committed a series of very horrific murders. And this picture was actually found in his hard drive after he was arrested. So let's move forward here.
So who is she?
Nobody knows.
Really?
Yes. So.
Wow. Do you think she's dead?
More than likely. More than likely. Because that's kind of his MO. So here he is.
Gargiulo.
After he was arrested.
Gargiulo.
The dude is a real psychopath. And there is a link to I'll just forward this because it's just a high school picture. It doesn't really say much except for his mullet. So these are three of his known victims. The fourth actually survived. The first one was Trisha Pacaccio. Sorry, you're hipper to this.
Yeah,
Anyway, Ohio. He was his next door neighbor. He was friends with her brother. And one morning, her father found her viciously stabbed to death in their front yard. He was not held. They couldn't prove that it was him, but later on, they pretty much figured out it was. He left Ohio and moved to California, where he met a makeup artist named Ashley Ellerin.
Mm-hmm.
Ellerin. Ooh, I got one right. And so she was actually dating Ashton Kutcher at the time, a very young Ashton Kutcher. And they had a date to go out the night she was murdered. She had a party the night before, so he was running late. And when he got to her house, knocked on her door, and saw what was eventually they figured out was her blood on the ground. But he thought it was wine because he looked into the window. He figured she's already left and gone partying without him. But she had been murdered. She was stabbed 47 times by this scumbag, and she was stabbed so violently that her head was almost completely severed from her neck, and with some of the knife wounds being 6 inches deep. So he just slaughtered her.
So much anger. The fuck is that about?
And got away with it. There's speculation that he was jealous that she was dating this Ashton Kutcher guy, which wasn't really famous back then. The next day when Ashton found out that she had been found dead, he immediately contacted the police and said that he was there that night and he saw what he thought was wine on the ground. And that was that. And he got away with that one for the time being. Here a second. So here are the young ladies, and here he is. And he ended up testifying at his murder in court. He basically gave his story. It was only a few years ago. In fact, COVID kind of postponed his whole sentencing.
When was this? When?
This was. Hang on. This was like around 2008.
Okay.
So he moved to Santa Monica, and his last victim was his Maria Bruno, mother of 4, next door neighbor to him. Once again, he attacked her in her house, stabbed her dozens of times, and then cut out her breasts.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, nice guy, right?
Jesus.
And once again, got away with it. Her murder went unsolved for a while. One of his last. Well, here's the thing. He's one of these serial killers where we don't know how many people he actually murdered. I believe he's quoting as saying, just because my DNA was found at 20 dead girls' murder scenes doesn't mean that I was part of it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's one of his quotes. So just because my DNA was there at a murder scene doesn't mean that I did it. So yeah, so we have.
So were were these girls that he picked up for dates? Was he dating them? He
was also known as the boy next door, a murderer, because he essentially murdered people who lived in his apartment complexes, condos, and stuff like that. So he was.
I mean, they're all attractive girls, So
and they all look very similar, which
yes, they have the same kind of DNA.
So
right.
which brings us back to that first picture. She fits that same mold of the brunette, pretty, cute girl.
Right.
So he attacked his last victim, Michelle Murphy, but she fought him off, left his blood everywhere, and a few weeks later, he was arrested, and the house of cards fell on him. He was tried, and he prolonged his day in court by repeatedly firing his attorneys. So that was his move. He kept on firing his attorney, and finally the judge had enough. The trial went on, and he received.
Oh, he shaved his head.
Yeah, they always
looks so different.
They always do. They always do something creepy.
This is so weird to me. So this picture, basically, they have no idea who this girl is.
It was in his hard drive. Yeah. For the most part, they don't know. The internet's been looking for this girl, so maybe by now someone has identified her. You think it's almost impossible these days to not. But
she looks like a normal girl, that she would have parents and people who loved her and know that she's.
Well, whether they have found her or not, she's more likely deceased. So, and he was sentenced to 45 years in prison.
How many girls was he convicted of killing? Do you know?
They only convicted him of killing, I believe, 2.
Wow.
2, because the first girl in Ohio, even though they know he did it, it's one of those things where they just never tried him for it, because they had him on these other 2 cases. I mean, the fact that he killed a mother of 4 and cut her breast out, I mean, that's next level psycho shit right there. Anyway. Do
you have any thought? Because I definitely want to look him up when we're done with this, because was there any kind of psychoanalysis of him in terms of why he was as fucked up and vicious as he was?
No, it's just a classic narcissist type. He was an aspiring actor for a second, mostly doing menial tasks, blue collar shit. He wanted to be somebody, but it never worked out for him. And I guess his rejection turned into
hate.
So there you go.
All right. I really like that one. I'm going to ask you to put up my Jodi Arias one.
Sure. Right now.
Yeah. So as we were looking through these, actually, my most disturbing one was the story of Jodi Arias. And I'm sure most of you know who that is. And she was on trial back in 2013, I guess it was. And it was a really sensational trial because it was, aired on TV after the whole, OJ thing. The having Jodi Arias on trial was quite the spectacular. So let me tell you. Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about the and this really suits our discussion pretty much more than anything I can possibly imagine. So this is the story of Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander. This is the very last photo of Travis Alexander before Jodi Arias stabbed him over 25 times and then turned him over and shot him in the head. And left him dead, and then went to travel to Arizona to meet up with her ex-boyfriend so that she could hang out with him. So Jodi, this is such a fucked up story, and this picture is just so haunting. So Jodi met Travis in September 2006 at a business convention in Las Vegas. They became friends, and then in November that year, when she started dating him, she found out that he was part of the Mormon faith, and she decided that she would be baptized into the Mormon faith because that's how much she loved him. But basically, he he wound up saying to her, even though you are baptized as Mormon, that doesn't really mean that I can actually marry you. And Mormons are supposed to be virgins until they marry. But Travis seemed to be a little bit of a Lothario type guy and used to sleep around a little bit. Never really told his friends about it, but he had like a whole secret life where he would sleep around with a bunch of women. So they were like a super happy couple. People said that they were totally in love. But she became obsessed with him. And he wound up breaking up with her and saying, I can't marry you because you're not really truly of the Mormon faith, even though, weirdly enough, his parents had separated when he was a small kid, and he went to live with, I think, his aunt or uncle or grandparents or something, and they're the ones who made him a Latter-day Saint. So he didn't really even grow up with the religion. It was just something that was put upon him when he was a kid. So basically, he said he couldn't see her anymore because he needed to marry somebody that was truly of the Mormon faith. So she started to stalk him. And all his friends said, dude, she's really fucked up. She's like really a creepy chick. You really need to get away from her. But you know what? That nookie is a really strong fucking inducement to being with somebody. So even though they were broken up, they still used to see each other. So that would be kind of off and on. When they actually broke up, she moved back to California. She had moved to be near him, I think, and I don't really know where he lived. I'm so sorry that I don't know that right now. So the fateful day comes, and it's June 4th of 2008. She goes to his house, and they have like crazy ass fucking sex. And as you'll see from some of these pictures, so he had just gotten a brand new camera, and she was also a photographer. And so that day, which was on June 4th, he took pictures of her, and she took pictures of him, and he took pictures of her. And so after they had sex, so those pictures were time stamped at around 1:30 in the morning. So, and you need to know that these pictures were discovered in the camera, in the washing machine, on an SD card. And the police were able to retrieve them, even though the camera had been soaked through completely and was amongst just like a shit ton of bloodied towels and t-shirts and stuff like that. So let me go back for one quick second. So he didn't show up at a meeting that he needed to be at on like June 6th. And so people went around to his house, and they got in, and they saw this blood all over the place, and saw him in the shower dead. So when they finally found these pictures, and they saw her and they saw him, they showed that she just started taking like a bunch of pictures of him in the shower. And so here he is showering, and here's another one. And then there's his back. And then there's his lower back, and these are all date stamped. So it was very curious because they just kept wondering, why is it that he's letting her take all these pictures of him? Okay, and then you see him sitting on the bottom of the shower stall, and people are surmising that the first picture that I showed of him and this picture are one and the same, like she took them at the same time. And it was at this moment she decided to slice his fucking neck, literally almost off of off of its off of its post there. And I am gonna show you some really, really fucked up photos, but we're gonna zoom through them really, really quickly so that you could see the aftermath of what she did.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did that fairly quickly so that you guys could kind of just get an idea as to, there were a lot of pictures of his hands after the death because it showed that he put up like a huge fucking fight. And, he was stabbed just a thousand times. I mean, just really horrific. So she went on the road after that and decided to go visit her ex-boyfriend.
Of course.
And so she kind of hung out with him the next day. Just so you know, all those pictures I just took were actually from YouTube. So I didn't take anything that wasn't on YouTube. So, so they brought her in, because they found the pictures. They had her dead to rights because there she was taking pictures of him, at 1:30 in the morning, and then he was dead at 5:30 in the morning, with pictures taken of him, which is like so fucking insane. So once they figured out that and there were other pictures where she took photos by mistake where you can see the body being dragged across the ground, and you see like her foot in the photos and such. So at first she said she wasn't in town. She wasn't anywhere near his home. Then she said she was in town and she saw him, but she left before the morning. Then once she realized that they had her dead to rights, she decided to admit that she had done it. So this photo that you're looking at right now is after she had finally admitted to doing it and they were just about to arrest her. And she asked them if there was somewhere that she could go take a shower because she wanted to look good for her mugshot.
Don't we all?
So this is her after she just she dyed her hair brown, just so you know, so that she would kind of get away with it. So this is her taking her fucking mugshot and trying to be all like cute and whatever. But the reality is that she was responsible for killing him. Her bloody palm print was found in the hallway. So yeah, she was indicted on first-degree murder charges in July of 2008. She pleaded not guilty on this very date in 2008, September 11th. The trial began in January of 2013, and they sought the death penalty for her. And on February 6th, she testified that she killed him in self-defense and said that he was abusive to her during their relationship. So she changed the story basically 4 or 5 times. But in May of that year, 2013, the jury reached a verdict, found her guilty of first-degree murder. And but the jury didn't reach a consensus about whether the murder was premeditated or not. But this photo kind of lasts as a haunting reminder. And, you kind of look at it and you wonder to yourself, it's like, why is he showering at like 5 o'clock in the morning? His eyes look all kind of glazed over. He actually looks like he was crying as well. There's a lot of people online who have kind of really parsed through the photos of that night to kind of try and figure out whether he was doing something at like gunpoint or was he, just kind of following orders of her. And this is kind of like that weird look in your eye that, you just know that something really fucking awful is going to happen to you momentarily. And it just fucking haunts me. This picture absolutely haunts me. So, yeah.
The question begs to be asked is like all these murders is like, why do these psychos feel the need to take a picture? I mean, if you think about evidence-wise, I think probably half of them would have gone off if there wasn't any like photos of their work, essentially.
Why do people take fingers? Why do people, take anything? Why do they take underwear? Why do they take jewelry? This is
trophy,
like
something
trophies.
We had a excuse me, a famous case, I believe it's Polly Klaas, where a young girl was kidnapped and murdered by this thug. And he said that every night he thinks about that murder, and he wish he could replay it every like a film. So it's like these guys are just sickos, and women, because we have. So it's just like, if she was going to kill him, why take pictures? Just to show you how little regard for human life, that this becomes like entertainment for them.
Yeah, they're sociopaths and they're narcissists. I just wanted to add, right, High Voltage, thank you for pointing it out. She did, right prior, so it was totally premeditated, because she staged a robbery at her grandparents' house, and one of the things that they claimed was stolen from the house was the gun that ultimately wound up being the gun that killed Travis. So she set it up that the gun was stolen, so that she could then take the gun and use it to shoot him in the head. It does look like he's scared, right? I mean, it just, this picture haunts me, you guys. It really fucking does. It's, I just had to stop. This one I happen to have done today. Yeah, the Dahmer pictures are horrible. I was going to go into that, but I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it.
Makes you wonder, though, if he dated her for as long as he did, he had to know something was up.
Well, his friend said to him, "She's really fucking crazy. Like she's really crazy. You really, she's bad news. You really shouldn't be with her." But the flesh is weak. He just loved having the fucking nookie. And apparently she's like that to this day. She's like that in prison as well. She flirts with the guards. She's, she does artwork kind of on par with Howard, not going to lie, which she sells on a website, and she answers like all the,
she's allowed to financially, like, she's allowed
profit?
to make money. Yeah. Profit from her.
I'm not necessarily sure that the parents sued her, and honestly, I mean, it's like $20 here, $30 there, or something like that. I know Hanzo, there's stuff on Dahmer, there's shit on there you can't unsee. I know that. And it's Take a look, says Dum Dum gave butt sex and kept reeling him in. That's probably true. The flesh is fucking weak. And if he's supposed to be like, marrying while he's a virgin, him having this like little secret life with her, even though they were broken up, was, antithetical to who he was supposed to be. And, not that he deserves any of this, to be honest with you. I mean, it's just, the whole point of this wasn't to show like really grotesque pictures of murder and things like that. It's just to show you, first off, what a psycho bitch she was, but secondly, what we really wanted to do here is kind of highlight out to you guys truly like those last photos and the looks of fear in their eyes
or
when
just being
they know it's
targets.
coming, or just being sitting targets. Exactly.
No idea what's about to hit them.
No, I can't even look at this anymore. I gotta remove it. Sorry, I had to. I hate that.
So let's conclude with our last story of fun and intrigue, I suppose. So here is arguably one of the most notorious pictures of his type, where it just seems like it's two dudes hanging out at a kegger. In front of you is 17-year-old Tyler Joseph Hadley. Hadley, can you imagine someone being weird with that last name? He, by all means, was just a typical teenager who grew up, he would get in trouble for things like using his parents' ATM card, ditching school, all that good stuff. His parents, for all intended purposes, were pretty loving, somewhat strict parents who, dad was 57 years old, mom was 47. Facebook, stay off of it. It'll get you killed. So they were strict. The guy, this Tyler had,
he looks a little bit like those Columbine killers, not going to lie. He actually is like a really weird mix between the Columbine killers and the Sandy Hook guy.
He suffered from eating disorder and depression. His mother made sure that he had therapy. And a couple of days before the events of this story happened, his mother was bragging about how Tyler had come out the other end of his long ordeal with mental health. Little did she know that during this time, he would DM people on Facebook, his friends, saying that he was suicidal. They would say, "Hey, hi, how you doing?" He would say, "I'm suicidal." Really? He goes, "Yeah, I think about dying." And then other times he would say, "I think about killing my parents." But nobody ever took him serious. Um, he Here, let's move forward a little bit here. He is on Facebook, obviously, and he wanted to throw a party, a high school party. His parents said, absolutely not. So, one on the evening of July 15th, 2011, he decided enough was enough. He was going to have his party, whether his parents liked it or not. So, he decided to take 3 ecstasy pills and wait for them to kick in. He walked up behind his mother, who was working at her computer at the time, back to him, obviously. He waited 5 minutes to work up the courage, and then he took this finishing nail to the back of her head and started beating her to death. While he was killing her, she started to scream. His father, her husband, comes running to this bloody murder screams that are happening in his house. He walks in to see his wife now pretty much dead on the floor. Apparently, they just stared at each other for a minute, like literally just locked eyes. Dad said, "Why?" And Tyler said, "Why not?" And then he said, "Why not? Why not?" And he took the claw portion of that finishing hammer and murdered his father in basically cold blood. Just hacked at him as long as he could with that hammer until he was no longer moving. So now,
it's a nice hammer.
So it's a really nice hammer. So he wrapped the towel around both his parents' heads and dragged them to their bedroom. Then he took everything in the house that had blood on it and threw it into the bedroom with them. So now the parents are dead inside their bedroom with under a pile of chairs, you name it. And he decided, I'm going to have a party. So he spent the next 3 hours cleaning up blood from all over the house.
Which I love because he probably never even cleaned his fucking room. Exactly. But yeah, go ahead and clean the house.
So he cleaned the blood as best he could, and he threw a raging kegger. He went to the ATM, withdrew $5,000 from the ATM, bought everything you can imagine to throw the craziest party imaginable, put it up on Facebook. He had, by all accounts, at least 50 people show up to his party, and they were playing pong. They were playing beer pong. They were putting out cigarettes on the furniture. It was literally like every 80s crazy party you could ever imagine. He was he was kept on flashing money throughout the night, showing off money. He was just living out his best high school fantasy. While this was going on,
hold on, Pibble Girl is asking $5,000 from an ATM. She's not buying that, but I do. I think that it was probably the parents' account, and maybe that's like the max you could take out or something.
This is from the police report, so
yeah,
feel free to look it up. His best friend, this gentleman here, this Michael Mando, who lived down the street. This Tyler decided to let him in on the little secret that he's been holding. He took him to the room, showed him the pile of rubble where his parents are now just a pile of mass and blood. And the dude was pretty put off, but as you can see, he said, "Fuck it, party's still going on. Let's continue." So they continued the party, and then this kid Michael decided to start telling people what had happened
at the party.
So the party continued while people were starting to get whims of that the parents are literally in the next room. but the party continued. So party came and went. The next morning, Michael's guilt got the better of him, and he decided to call a hotline for a crime hotline. And the police showed up immediately at the house. They noticed that his Tyler was walking back and forth, wide-eyed, seemed really scared, mumbling to himself. They come in, they find the parents, they find the murder weapon, they arrest him, and the party is over for Tyler.
Not true. He actually said, "Why ask why? Drink Bud Dry."
Well, not only that, the dude had really bad taste in beer.
So he admitted to it.
He had no choice at that point.
Oh, look at that! He actually looks like he chunked up a little bit while he was in jail.
You remember he had an eating disorder.
Yeah, I know, but that last picture of him was kind of curious. Like he actually,
he could lose 5 pounds, right, Robin?
He could stand to lose 5 pounds, but maybe jail was good for him. So what wound up happening with what kind of jail time did he get?
He got life.
I know, but what does that mean? Was it double life? Is he up for parole in like 20 years like that other fucking one?
I believe he is not going to be eligible for parole ever. He was tried as an adult. And that was that. I hope it was worth it. Once again, you have mental illness and greed and all this other crap coming into play. But the thing that gets me about this picture, and it's not like a scary picture or anything, but the fact that both these kids had just seen, like within the last minute, his dead parents. And what did they do? Like, let's take a selfie. I think Michael knew that this was going to be famous. So that's that.
Wow. Alrighty then. Well, so I'm gonna delete this from our conscious array. So yeah, so that's like 6 of quite possibly the most fucked up pictures you'll see on the internet this year. Not gonna lie. We started digging. Yeah, go ahead, babe.
On February 2014, he pleaded guilty and was eventually sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on the 21st of March 2014. In April 2015, the Hatley house was demolished.
Really? Yeah, well, it had to be. What are we talking about? Who are we talking about that I think some woman bought the apartment where Jodi Arias's boyfriend was killed, and she was like, nobody told me there was a murder in here. Nobody said anything to me.
Isn't there some sort of law saying that if someone died within so many years, they have to tell you?
Didn't we look that up at one point?
Yeah, but I think that qualifies under that statute.
I'm laughing because what else is new? We have looked up absolutely everything that there is to do with
Have you ever lived in a house where someone's died? I have. It's really I had the same bedroom as a lady she was in her 80s when she passed away, but nonetheless, she had passed away. Her husband decided to rent out as a duplex the house next door. He moved to next door and he rented me that house. And I it's one thing about living where someone has died, even if you don't believe in ghosts and stuff like that. Once in a blue moon, all the little, the little cricks and little bumps in the night that you hear from normal house settling, once in a while you get that feeling like, you get that shiver going down your spine, like
yes,
that you really can't put your finger on, and it's like, logically there's nothing there, but that someone's life ended where you are sleeping.
Babe, you're talking to somebody who lived above a funeral parlor when she moved out of her parents' house.
You did. That was that's quite the little.
And at least 3 times I had that. I know sometimes they say it on like Howard Show. Maybe it's like Sal or somebody who has it, where you feel like somebody is attacking you while you're sleeping, like they're like not night tremors. But you're like,
you're paralyzed.
You're paralyzed, right? Sleep
Yes.
paralyzation. And one time I was laying in bed and oh my God, Tiger Lily had a great story. Sorry, I'll finish mine in a second. I have somebody very close to me that I know someone died in their pool, electrocuted during a party, and I've never told them. They've been there 30 years. Wow.
I have a pool story. I won't tell it tonight, but because it's kind of long-winded. But I think I've told you about the disturbance in the swimming pool that we didn't know
No.
what was going on, and then no, I'll tell you some other day because
Well,
that's
let me finish off. Let me finish my funeral story.
by all means.
So one time I was in bed and it was well, I have a couple of funeral parlor stories. But one time I was in bed and I absolutely had that sleep paralysis, and I had a vision that somebody, and I lived in a railroad apartment, okay? So it's like straight, so it's like you have a bedroom and then your living
Yes.
room and then a small room and then a kitchen and then the bathroom. So it's just straight railroad apartment. And I had a feeling from inside that I heard noises in the kitchen, and I felt like somebody was walking towards me, and that there was nothing I could do about it except lay there. And in my mind, I kept thinking to myself, okay, if I lay perfectly still, maybe nothing will happen to me. And I felt like somebody was like hovering above me, and I felt like this pressure on my chest, like a panic attack, like I couldn't breathe and I was frozen. And all I could think of is maybe they'll just go away. Maybe they'll just go away. There were so many times where, I would go to sleep and I would have, because I always have like a bottle of water or something next to me, and I would put it on my side table, and then the water would be on the opposite side, side table, the side I never slept on. But there it would be. And and my story about how one time the power went out during a storm, and everybody was responding. It was such an old building that you had a fuse box down in the basement, and the basement happened to be where he did all of the what's it called when you do the body
Autopsies?
autopsy, not autopsy,
No,
when you shoot the shit inside of them.
the embalments.
Embalmings were down in the basement, and so it was probably about 11:30 at night, and all the power went out, and it was summertime, so I had to get the power back on because you had the window air conditioners, of course, and so I got my flashlight, and I lived on the third floor, and there were only apartments on the third floor and the second floor, and then there was this huge, like, sweeping kind of large wooden staircase that took you down to the first floor, which was basically where the entry to the funeral parlor was, the side entry to the funeral parlor, and then the doorway to the basement. And so I had to change the fucking fuse or whatever it is that you do, right?
Gnarly.
So, so there was a little combination lock on the door, which we all had the access to because if your power went down, you had to change the fuse. And so there was a box of fuses that would be on the right-hand side of when you walked in the doorway. And so I had my flashlight on and I'm walking down the stairs and there's no light because all the power is out. Like all the fucking power is out. And so I'm looking around with the light like this, and I'm just kind of scanning to see because I had never had to change the fuse before, but I knew that you had to change fuses from my parents' apartment. And so I go down the stairs, and there was no doorway to the fucking embalming room. It was just like right there. And I scan my flashlight around like this, and I see this like shockingly white body with like tubes in it. And and I just fucking screamed, and I dropped my flashlight and I ran up the stairs, and I ran into I triple locked my fucking door, and I jumped into bed, and I don't even think I fucking slept. and it was
Can't imagine
hot,
why.
and I was fucking sweaty, and there was no air conditioning, and it was fucking hot, and it was storming, and I could never, ever fucking go down there. And it just freaked me the fuck out. Yeah, it was super cheap. Actually, my mother got it for me because she was friends
Can't
with the guy
imagine
who owned the
why.
fucking funeral parlor.
Yeah.
Although it was actually a bonus because I got it for like $350. And when I left and moved into the city, I wound up renting it for like $650 for years. I made like, $300 profit on it. So it was
Nice.
well fucking worth it. But yeah, I was just from that day onward, I never slept well in that apartment ever, ever.
Yeah. Kind of not as quite as graphic, but my story in that place I lived ended up kind of, there's just too many random weird things kind of happening that, like, once again, it was an older house, kind of similar to yours. The electricity would go out and you'd have to go hit the circuit breaker, and which was pretty normal. But a couple of times when that happened, like a bookshelf would just fall on you, you know, and it's just
Jesus.
kind of, when you're walking in the dark and a bookshelf just randomly falls on you, it'll scare the shit out of you, regardless of whether you believe in ghosts or not.
Do you see what AI just wrote here?
Yeah,
I lived in a house where the husband shot his wife in the shower and then shot and killed himself. She actually lived, and I never heard or felt a thing. There are no ghosts or Bigfoot. Yeah, that might be
no, no,
true.
no one is saying that there are ghosts. It's just sometimes
You just feel something.
you kind of mentally put yourself in that situation where, like, you're susceptible to, like, being creeped out. I think that's a better word for it. You just get creeped out.
Do you think it's mind over matter, though? Do you think it's
I
something
believe
that
so.
maybe
Well,
you feel?
I'll try to do a very abbreviated pool story. So I'm working in the South, very close to where Tiger Lily was or is, and we're working in this southern state, large house mansion, gigantic, one of the biggest swimming pools we've ever seen. We do the build out. I end up doing the grave shift. At night, it always looked like someone was like cleaning the pool. Where they stick the hose in there, and you
Yeah.
see kind of like they're pumping the water out and they're putting the new water in. I figured that's normally when you would do that is at night, right? Especially in a really multi-million-dollar mansion. One thing, one of my coworkers and I noticed that at the same time every night, you would see what looked like someone had a hose inside the swimming pool, except for there was no hose. And it's like, okay, well, that's just a big fancy swimming pool that we don't know anything about. So you would see but we noticed after a time that whatever was causing the disturbance would go from one side of the swimming pool to the other lengthwise, and it's just like, and we would ask our boss, hey, dude, are they doing maintenance on the swimming pool while we're out here? They're not supposed to be doing that. So that was the additional complaint, like, you can't be doing this while we're doing our job. So, like, let me check, and we found out nobody was doing anything. But it's like, okay, cool. And during the day, nothing would happen. Well, month goes by. We are now at a club, um, and we are there with the talent. And some kid walks up to me and it says, "Hey, can I go and talk to the talent?" And I'm like, you know what? Talk to security, knowing that security is just going to literally grab them and kick them the hell out because they're up in
Yeah.
the VIP section.
Yeah.
And so, I go get a drink of water, go to the bathroom, and come back to find that kid, the blonde kid, he was about 5'6", 5'7", young kid, barely looked like he was old enough to get into that club, but he was. And in the VIP area, as it turns out, he goes over and he's chit chatting for the rest of the night with the talent. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's kind of odd. I wonder why they didn't kick him out. And
Why they're okay with this, right?
yeah, why are they okay with this? I go up to security, just gigantic security we had, great guys. All of them carry Glocks too, so there's that. He tells me, oh, he is the son of the guy who owns the mansion we're staying in, that we're working at. So it would have been a bad thing to just tell him to go fuck off because his dad could just shut us down. So so he's a rich kid. So cool, like whatever. So everybody gets into their vehicles. We go wrap things out, go back to the house, and we were listening to talent smoking. They're kind of doing their thing, just smoking, chit-chatting, meaningless banter. But as they're talking, they're saying, hey, what about that white boy that came over and talked to us? His dad owns this place. And like, oh, yeah. I go, yeah, and guess what? Like 3 months ago, someone drowned in that swimming pool. And we're like,
what
the fuck did you just say? Mind you, we're just listening to them talk. We don't have any interaction with them. Because yes, 3 months ago, someone broke into this house because there was nobody staying here, and they found their body the next morning floating in the swimming pool.
Wow.
And my boss, like, I'm not a ghost guy. My boss literally flipped the fuck out, because for weeks on end, we're like, what the fuck's going on in the swimming pool? There's nothing in it. Why does the water keep moving? Because it's not like it's a tide pool or anything like that. So it's
not even like one of those little remote vacuums that goes back and forth and pulls sometimes.
Exactly what it looked like, but there's no vacuum inside the thing, and no one could give us an explanation as to what was going on. So it was just funny that one story had nothing to do with the other one, and then they just collide into each other, and it's just like, well, that answered that. And we looked it up, and sure enough, some random dude, homeless guy probably, he decided to go for a swim in this gigantic swimming pool, and that was that.
Robert Blanco says, my brother-in-law overdosed and died in our house. We lived there for years afterwards, and nothing ghostly ever happened.
Yeah, I believe it.
Wow, lots of people on here that had people die in their homes. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of hollowed ground out there, right?
All right, Jack and Rod has a story for us. Let's listen to it. Me and my sister and friend riding bikes in an under construction neighborhood. We see a man with a shovel digging next to his dark colored van. He sees us and gets in the van and chases us. I'm waiting for the rest of it, Jack. I need to see where the story is going. Jack, please. I'm dying to know what the end of this is. I love when people have creepy stories. We should have people on who have like good stories too.
I think we should have a creepy story night. We have so many.
Oh my God. I didn't realize so many people had people that died in their homes. That's kind of weird. G Canada says, I'm hoping to die and haunt my wife for decades.
Wow, you have a chance to get away. Go.
Exactly. Why haunt? You're free.
Here's a really stupid fact that you know that Disneyland in California is the Haunted Mansion is one of the biggest places on Earth where people try to release their cremated relatives' ashes. It's literally the whole story is room for one more ghost, and literally people think that their relatives are going to haunt the Haunted Mansion at Disneyland for all eternity. And unfortunately, what they don't know is that place is from beginning to end. And they have IR cameras so they can see everything that happens, and it gets swept. So if you have plans to have your final resting place at Disneyland, more than likely you're going to end up in a shop vac and in a landfill.
All right, let's listen to Jack and Rod's story, though, now, because I have the whole thing here. I'll get started again. Me and my sister and friend were riding bikes in an under-construction neighborhood. We see a man with a shovel digging next to his dark-colored van. He sees us, gets in the van, and chases us. We haul ass back to our neighborhood, separated by a metal barrier. This was when Adam Walsh was missing. I still believe it was related. Did you ever tell the cops about it? Or did he not wind up burying somebody there because you guys had seen him? I don't know. It's kind of fucked up. Some years ago, I would walk in a cemetery at night in the summer. It would be 85 at night and would feel someone next to me and turn freezing cold. Yeah, one time I was in... Okay, first, two things that are really weird. Like, one time I was in Hawaii and... I love to do things that are kind of off the beaten path. And one of them was going up to this really high hill on the Big Island of Hawaii. And there was like a ceremonial burial ground up there. They would sacrifice people back in the day. And it was kind of like a closed off place where you couldn't really get in. It was just land, but you felt like really weird standing up there, like you felt the death of hundreds of people. You felt it in your body, and I can't really explain it any better than that. It's similar to when I went to the concentration camp.
Yes.
you felt it inside of you. Like you felt this almost kind of sick feeling, like that there were things there that you couldn't, and it was kind of like a weird anxiety, kind of agitation that I felt inside of myself that I couldn't get rid of, and
Oh,
I
it's a
couldn't
horrible
get out of
story,
there
Shane.
fast enough. Oh, let me see.
Yes,
Shane.
that would have been the better ending to the story, where the son was the one that
Oh,
drowned in the
that's
swimming pool.
horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything worse than finding somebody.
Has anybody here seen someone actually die? It's really kind of, I've had that unfortunate, where young man was working in the inner city, and I was working with a fire department, and where they were training their cadets. We hear gunfire right down the street. Normally, you wait for the 911 call to come in to be dispatched, but these guys said that was right down the street. Let's go. They got in their fire engines. We got there. There was this young man, probably about, I would say, between 16 and 19 years old, on the ground, with hand on his face, in complete agony, blood coming out everywhere, lying next to his bike. His family, right in front of his house. Family's freaking out. He's screaming bloody murder. We jump out of the fire engine, and the paramedic, whatever fire person, immediately wants to see how bad it is. So he grabs the kid's wrist, pulls his hand away from his face, and what I can only describe as his face fell out of a hole in his head. His eye, brain matter, all this, I don't even know what's brain matter, it was just stuff started coming out of his eye socket. And what turned out is that kid was in a gang, and the rival gang saw him walking his bike to his house, and they decided they're going to cap him. So the guy jumps out of a car, walks right behind him, and attempted to shoot him on the temple, the side of the head, side of his right head. But because he was coming from behind him, he shot him at an angle, and the trajectory of the bullet, rather than exiting through his left temple, it exited through his eye socket. So he didn't, and of course he was shot several other times while he was on the ground. Paramedics pull up in the ambulance, and literally the last thing this kid sees is me. Like, I don't even know if he could even see me at this point, but he stared right at me, and you can see his eyeballs just dilate, his eye pupils dilate, and he loses consciousness. They put him on the gurney, and as they put him on the gurney, you can see his chest starts to expand, like someone's pumping him
the gas?
water. They later told me that it was because of the bullet just bounces around inside the chest, and it just tears everything up, and so that's literally him just leaking inside his own chest. But you can see his chest just start to expand, and he died on the way to the hospital. So seeing someone die is really, especially murder, it's something you don't forget. It's not yeah. I'll remember that till the day I die.
All right, let's go on to a happier story. Pellel says, I posted this on the forum, but my grandmother told me about a haunted house on Woodbine Street. I guess she knew someone who lived there. She told me this when I was a kid. Years later, my friend said she was in a haunted apartment on Woodbine Street. So I guess my grandmother was right. She, my friend, saw his shadow. She, my friend, saw his shadow on the TV when she turned it off. Okay, that's really weird. We're going back and forth on this whole Adam Walsh body. And Jack and Rod continued on to say that where Adam Walsh's head was found was near the Florida Turnpike, near about a mile from where he lived. But the body was never found. O'Toole used this story for field trips from prison, but Dahmer was known to be in the area at the same time. The Hollywood cops dicked up the entire investigation. I didn't realize that Dahmer was in Florida. Why didn't I know that? I never really knew that.
Jeffrey Dahmer was in Milwaukee.
Oh,
Wisconsin.
So Dahmer was known to be in the area at the time, though.
Okay,
So I don't know. I don't know enough about it. Yeah.
I know Bundy ended up in Florida. Wisconsin was Jeffrey Dahmer, and Illinois was John Wayne Gacy.
Weird. Yeah, Nick P. Mulb. Yeah.
Hubert, you're correct. His pupil. Sorry, that's.
There's a lot of places where the dead are not resting, and you feel it when you're there and you
It's
experience
something. I mean,
it.
I don't. It's something. I don't know what it is. It's not ghosts, but it's like something.
It's a feeling. It's just a feeling, you know? I mean, would I feel the same way? I don't know if anybody here knows Long Island, and this is like a really fucked up story. That's not a story, really. But there's this big dual tower in Long Island called North Shore Towers. And a friend of mine's grandparents live there. And a lot of old Jewish people live there, let's be honest. And so, but old, high end old Jews live there. And I walked in the front door, not to the apartment, but to the building itself. And I just had this sick feeling inside. And all I could say to her is like, oh my God, so many people have died in this building, you know? And she's like, yeah, of course they do. People die here all the fucking time. There's literally like an ambulance in the front taking somebody to the fucking morgue like every week because people just fucking drop dead. And there's like a whole waiting list of more people to come in so that they could drop dead there too. But you just almost felt the fucking death like around you. And I was like, I don't feel good in here. I'll wait in the car. Like, and then just left because it just felt like the dead were there. All right, creepster. Gwen McFarlane, one night when I was in Hawaii, I found this little tiki statue. It was crazy. Bad stuff happened in my family. You didn't even have to mention Greg Brady. We would have completely known what you were talking about.
The worst thing about that tiki story is that they blamed Alice's throwing her hips out on a little statue. Like,
oh, right, like, when she was doing the hula, the hooky-lao or whatever it was.
Wasn't Alice like 60 years old and like?
You know what? You would think Alice was 60 years old, but I think she was kind of younger than us when she was in that fucking show. And then, they all just looked old.
Having a bourgeois kid from Los Angeles wipe out on a surfboard. Oh my God, it must be a tiki. Yeah, okay. What are the odds?
Yeah, fuck you, Brady's. All right, well, I guess that's going to wrap up our horrible little creepy shit show for tonight. Those are like some good stories. I'm glad you guys shared with us. That's really kind of awesome. I love when people share stories with us. Oh, look at Dorian Morgan. A friend jumped out a window to his death while I was on the phone with his girlfriend in the room with him. Nice. Oh, I have a really good one like that too. I'll share it for the next time.
I believe that in a couple episodes we'll do something similar where everybody can get the marshmallows out and we'll tell personal horror stories that we've all experienced.
Let's do that. I want to do that.
I think it would be fun to have as much interaction with everybody as possible.
Agreed.
Even Tiger Lily can tell us about how much she makes and scare us. I think, and hey, listen, guys, we're still trying to figure this out. Yeah. But I think we're having fun along the way. And
exactly.
I think it's going to be a fun little side project for us.
Yeah. And you know what? As scary as this is, nothing's quite as scary as Caitlin Hatley doing porn.
Oh, Lord. There's nothing we could have talked about tonight that would compare to the trauma that so fucking
I am burdened. I am burdened by the fucking very thought of this.
Okay, I almost want to end this podcast by saying I saw Tiger Lily's post. It's like, imagine me coming back to this site after being gone for my illness, and this is the first thing I see.
I couldn't look away though, babe. Did you watch it?
I saw part of it, and
I couldn't look away.
The only thing I could describe it as, like if a truck carrying hams collided, and what the inside of the video of all those hams being projected inside that cabinet would look like.
Holy shit! If a ham truck collided with a cottage cheese van,
it's like, I don't want to fuck up the mood, but is there a weight limit in these little scenarios that they have? Because it looks like everybody there had to stand on a scale to get in there, because I didn't see a whole lot of not to say listen, I'm a hefty lad myself, but man, dude,
I couldn't even imagine. That was just
the best part is when fucking
the guy with the
is when Tiny Tim comes on without his crutch to get some of the action. Like, you could tell that was his one and only chance to ever know what a woman feels like.
The touch of a woman with his fucking foot boot, his boot on his like. Oh my god, the men even had stretch marks. It was just disgusting.
It
honestly,
was like what.
It was.
I can't.
To take that down by tomorrow. But if you want to see it, you have to go onto Radio Gunk and take a look.
Mr. Scrooge?
I think Sketchy Press posted it.
That you can get done at the market.
I think Sketchy Press posted it, and I sent it off to some of the Stern guys. They were like, "Oh, fucking wash my eyes out with bleach. This is just the worst thing I've ever seen." And another one's like, "Yeah, no fucking way am I clicking that."
Quite the end to this podcast.
Yeah. Well, got to end it on a little bit of a light note.
The true horror that is
exactly
the things that we have to deal with.
Fuck. All right, so that's it for our show tonight, and we hope you liked it. And if you want to make comment on it, and maybe we'll send you some links to things that we talked about in tonight's show in the thread at radiogunk.com.
Do we know what our next? Are we doing Ed Gein next, or are we gonna save him for later?
I can attack Ed Gein. Yeah, I can definitely do that. I'd like to. Yeah, Ed Gein, and we're not even going to tell you about him, and nor do we even want you to look him up. Okay, save it for when you watch the video with us this time. Okay, guys.
But do send us suggestions. We would love.
I know. I wrote down somebody named Carl Panzram as they were talking before. I'm not sure who that is, but I'm going to look him up momentarily. All right, guys. So thanks for joining me Lloyd. And we enjoyed having you. And
your money's no good here, sir.
Yeah, Xavier, thank you for some creeptastic stories. So I'm going to end it with my like and subscribe thing if I can find it. So hang on a second. All right, guys, thank you so much. We love you. And thanks for hanging with us tonight. Please join us for any discussion at radiogunk.com in the forum section. Follow us on Instagram or Twitter at Radio Gunk. And don't forget to like this and subscribe to us and hit that little bell so that you know when we're going to have a new show. Thanks.